Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Dave, Season 2, Episode 4, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the episode I will be talking about, breaking down, and spoiling. So if you don't want it to be spoiled, I wouldn't recommend listening, watching, /whatever, consuming this episode in any form, in any way, shape, or form. But let's get into it, shall we? This episode starts off, we are inside Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's office at his house. He's reading the newspaper, one of the few people to actually read the paper version of news, listening to classical music. He ends up getting an email, opens up the email, and it is a music video by the one, the only, the star of the show, the titular character, Dave Bird, Little Dicky, and it is Little Dicky's video song about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, in which a video in which Dave's head is put onto Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's body, and Kareem. That's how it opens. That's how this episode opens, with Kareem discovering Little Dicky's music video about him. Cut to, we're now at Allie's house. She's waking up, sore from the night before. So as we left last episode, this episode takes place the next day. Last episode ended with Dave over at Allie's place. He had just puked on her open wound. She had a mole removed, the general. So this is the next morning. Allie is waking up in bed, sore. Like I said, the drugs have worn off. She gets up. She opens the bathroom door to see Dave sitting down on the toilet, taking a morning piss. She'd forgotten that he was there, and she ends up closing the door. They end up cleaning up the living room. He had slept on the couch, so they're folding the blankets, putting the pillows away. Emma wakes up, walks in. Allie's roommate, Emma, Dave's friend. Emma walks in, sees them putting things away. She's curious to know what's going on, doesn't quite believe the story that they're feeding her, that Dave just spent the night on the couch. Emma's concerned potentially that maybe Allie hooked up with Dave again, which is something nobody's really encouraging Dave to get back with Allie. At least that's been the kind of messaging that has happened in the previous episodes, when Dave trying to ask about Allie to everybody, especially when it came to L's party that he threw a few episodes ago. So Emma not quite buying it necessarily. Dave still pushing for him and Allie to have a friendship, because it is Dave, as always, who the world revolves around. He knows from internet stalking that Allie is now teaching 7th graders, and she is late. She has a fundraiser later on in the day to help raise money for the arts department that's being defunded. Because God forbid we fund art in this country, or we defund art and fund the police. Let's put some of that tax dollars into giving young people creative outlet. So she's going to do a fundraiser later. Dave is asking about it, but Allie leaves. She has to go to work. So Dave is left there with Emma, and Emma asks again because she didn't believe the answer the first time. She wants to know if anything happened between Dave and Emma, and Dave said no, nothing happened. He actually threw up on her last night, and to which ended that conversation. Cut now back to the mansion that Dave and Mike are living at with Gata, that the studio's providing them. Dave is playing video games, swiping away ants that are still there, with a used fast food wrapper, trying to swipe away the ants while he's playing video games. Mike walks in with some news for Dave that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar finally saw his video. not finally saw, not that that was the intention of making the video, but he did see the video and listen to the song that Dave made about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Mike had gotten an email from Kareem's manager, and he lets Dave know that Kareem wants to talk to him, wants to have an interview with him. So sit down and talk and have an interview. And Dave is more concerned with the fact that video, that song, has been out for over a year and a half. But he is stoked. He is stoked at the opportunity to sit down and talk with somebody he admires, Kareem, huge basketball fan, huge fan of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So he is stoked and happy that there's a meeting that is booked. And we also see that one of the doors, another problem. First, they have ants at this mansion, and now there is a bathroom door that is stuck. That is quite a bit of annoyance. If you need to get into any kind of time a door gets stuck, it's so annoying. It's so annoying because it's like the house is against you in some way, and you don't need that. The house is there to serve you, not the other way around. And the door is stuck, and it's annoying. But we cut to now Mike and Gata are outside of a restaurant. They are meeting Mike's new clients. Mike has 2 new clients. And as they're sitting outside this restaurant waiting, somebody from the health department comes into the restaurant and shutting the whole place down because they're serving horse meat. And as the patrons of that restaurant are leaving, the manager comes out all kerfuffled. We find out that it wasn't the health department, that it is Mike's new clients, the Stone twins, who are pranksters, who are pulling a prank. They are TikTok stars that pull pranks, which is annoying, which is probably some of the most annoying aspects of popular pop culture these days are like those staged, like there's so many staged pranks like type things. You know, I'm a fan of prank shows, you know, for the most part. There are some that are better than others. Impractical Jokers, probably my favorite type of a prank show. Jackass does some fun pranks now and then, at least, you know, especially within themselves. But like to go and mess with somebody's business to get views, and to do like Gata asks what they do aside from pranks. They're like, oh, we do challenges and dances and stuff. They do all the like the generic, typical internet kind of go-to things that they do, but they're popular on TikTok. Gata is not happy because Gata wants representation too. He's a rapper. He's part of the crew already. So he's not happy with the fact that Mike is representing these guys. But they all, like when they all meet, Gata and these 2 Stone twins, they meet after, you know, the whole prank thing or whatever. They all pull out their phones and they're all, oh, we're going to hype each other up. We're going to hype each other up on TikTok. And they all get out their phones and they're all doing their live Instagram lives with each other, which is funny. Like the scene of them all out on the sidewalk in front of this restaurant with their phones up in the air, all 3 of them, this threesome of Instagram lives is just, man, like that's part of internet culture that is just so I don't know, man. I have never had, like, I'm very controlled with what I put out on the internet. I'm not doing Instagram lives like that. I'm not doing all those trendy. I'm not like chasing internet trends online. That's not what I'm doing. I'm using it to put out the stuff I want to put out. I'm not trying to adjust the type of work I do depending on what's trending. But it is funny to see all of them with their phones out on the sidewalk, because that's just what modern culture is. It's all about pretending to be the thing for the thing. You know, like after the protests, there was a lot of people during the Black Lives Matter protests, during George Floyd protests, where, there's a lot of people that took advantage of the protests in order to damage property, right? Not necessarily the protesters themselves, but if you're an arsonist, if you're somebody that likes burning down buildings, you might take advantage of the opportunity of a lot of people out on the streets to do the thing you love to do. And a lot of those people took to the streets and damaged a lot of property. But what happened after that, in the aftermath of the destruction, we saw all of these internet celebrities, quote unquote, these internet personalities pretending to go out into the streets and fix things up. Like, there was so many videos people caught of these influencers just holding a drill and a hard hat, pretending to drill something into a piece of plywood, and then just going back into their cars to drive to another location to get more photos. It's all fake. It's all so fake. So seeing all three of them out on the sidewalk, it's just it's funny, but it's also disgusting. Because that's just we're living in a reality where so much fiction is taken as reality. And it's disturbing. It's very disturbing. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Now you can wear The Many Faces, original art by Ray Taylor. Select pieces from the ongoing series of abstract ink paintings. All products made with high-quality materials, made right here in the USA. Go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch to browse the entire collection and save yourself an extra 10% when you check out by using coupon code RTSTMF. So once again, go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch and save 10% when you use coupon code RTSTMF. And now, back to our show. So cut back to Little Dicky is now over at Kareem's. He's looking at all of his souvenirs and his trophies and all of his knickknacks that Kareem has around his house, talking about, asking him, fanning out about things, talking about basketball, how funny it was when people used to dribble back in the day, how different basketball was. And then he doesn't really know. He shows up to Kareem's house. He doesn't even really know what Kareem is doing. He thinks that they're going to talk about basketball or whatever. But Kareem, Kareem mentions, what he's doing. So Google, while Kareem is going to get some tea, Dave ends up Googling Kareem. And he sees that Kareem is most of the writing that Kareem does is about social issues. And Dave starts to freak out because he's like, oh, shit. He's unprepared. He's there. He didn't know that it was even going to be a serious interview. So they sit down, and Kareem asks, first thing he's curious. He's like, what are you bringing to hip-hop? What was the idea? Why did you put your head on top of Kareem's body? And, Dave, well, it's not like blackface. It's the opposite of blackface. And Kareem's like, oh, it's like black body, right? Kind of trying to get to the bottom of it. Meanwhile, Dave is trying to, in a lot of ways, bullshit answers. Dave, instead of just answering truthfully, he's trying to say the thing that he thinks Kareem wants to hear. That's what and it's not going well. It's not going well. He sees the recorder. He starts to kind of crumble even more. And he's like, this isn't on the record, is it? And Kareem's like, generally, if things are going to be off the record, they need to be stated off the record. It's not the other way around. And Dave, knowing that it's off the record, he's like, I came here, I was high, I didn't know what we were going to talk about. And he just starts kind of rambling on about things, just not really coherently. And decides to, because he wasn't prepared, decides to ask Kareem if they could reschedule. Maybe do a better kind of interview thing, more an in-depth interview, which that's not what Kareem was initially intending. He just wanted to do a little blurb about Dave, but Dave, in some ways, digging the hole deeper for himself. Now he's going to be doing a more in-depth interview with Kareem later on. They're going to book it. They're going to get it set up. So now cut to back at the mansion. back at their place. Gata's walking in with Mike, and he gets an email. He finds out he's got an audition is booked. Gata's got his own things going without representation. He's got a audition booked for a show called Rhythm and Flow, which apparently is like hip-hop kind of American Idol. And he's stoked. He's super stoked about it. He's blessed. Mike is proud. Mike's proud. Gata's like trying to passively aggressively kind of get at Mike, going like, see, look, this is what you could do for me. You should be representing me, but I'm getting this stuff on my own. But Mike's still proud. Mike has a lot of love for Gata. And then again, the door is stuck. And Gata says he's got a guy that can fix it, because of course Gata's got a guy who can fix the door. Cut to later on that evening. It's Dave is going through his old Twitter posts looking for problematic tweets. Mike and Emma are with him in the pool. Mike very high, not really in the mind state to be helping Dave necessarily, and Dave going through his problematic tweets, trying to prepare for this interview, trying to, in some ways, put out fires that he started a long time ago on Twitter that he thinks that Kareem might stumble into to pick up. He's trying to put a facade together in order for this interview with Kareem to go well. It's not working out. Dave's stressed out about it. Emma and Mike are just relaxing in the pool, as you should be. If you're if you're living in a mansion and you have a nice pool that overlooks the LA skyline, yeah, get high and get in the pool and relax. Don't go through your old tweets and see how problematic the things you said were. And definitely don't try to justify those problematic tweets. Cut to the next day. I think it's the next day. Maybe it's... Anyway, he's in the park. Dave's in the park. He's meeting up with Kareem. They sit down on a park bench. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is so tall. It is like just so shocking how tall basketball players are when you see them standing next to people like Dave, who is not a short person. Dave probably around 6 feet tall, I would imagine, which is a little bit over the average height. But then you see Kareem, who's like just towering over him, and it's crazy to see. But they're there at the park. Kareem is asking Dave what he thinks he's going to bring to hip hop, and why he uses a black scent when he raps. And Dave, more concerned with offending the hip hop community than the general population, right? He doesn't want to rap in his natural voice because he doesn't want to stand out as being different, which is kind of a weird thing for Dave to be so specific about, because he knows how important it is to be different, to stand out, to have those eyes on you. And you would think that he would know that if he had an ability to rap in a different voice and in a different way, then that would help him in his career. I mean, you look at somebody like Eminem, who came into rap doing like comedy, having a very like nasally, high-pitched, nerdy type of a voice, but doing it his way. And Dave doesn't want to do that. Dave wants to do the thing. He's still, in a lot of ways, hasn't found his voice, you could say, and he's trying to emulate the people that he looks up to. And Kareem understands that. Kareem sees what he's doing and kind of is pointing out the downsides to that. And then, of course, again, more rambling. More rambling from Dave. Just like, clearly, I mean, it's so evident as a viewer, as Kareem, that Dave is trying to put on a facade, trying to say the things that he thinks Kareem wants to hear, to try and sound like he is, socially aware. but it's not working. So they end up leaving. Cut to now they're getting out of this tiny car. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar unfolding himself as he tries to crawl out of this tiny little car. They're now in front of the school where Allie works, where the fundraiser is happening. Obviously, Dave trying to do everything to show off for Kareem, to show off for this article that he thinks Kareem is writing for him. Even so far as to pull out a giant check from the car that he's going to use to donate. Then you see him walk into the auditorium or the gym or the theater where this little meeting's going on with Allie trying to convince people to help donate. And more like a planning meeting, really, than anything. Dave thought it was going to be an event, that he thought there was going to be a bunch of kids there and that they would all love and cheer and clap at the fact that he brought Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem stayed outside. He's like, I'll do some work on my laptop. I don't want to go in there and deal with whatever shenanigans you're trying to put over on me. But Dave shows up with a giant check for $1,000 that he's going to donate. And Allie is like not having it. She's not. She knows what Dave's trying to do. She sees right through him. A lot of people are seeing through Dave. His false attempt at trying to create a narrative is not working for most people around him. So she pulls Dave out into the hallway and they have an argument. And she says this line that, like, even when she loved him, she didn't like him because he's not a good person, because he's selfish, and then he pretends to be a good person. And she sees right through it, and she tells it again, and it's like a crushing line to be told that from anybody, that an ex, that, like, even when they loved you, they didn't like you. That is such a bummer. So he leaves, destroys the check. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, watching from outside, sees him trying to push this giant check into a trash can. Dave comes through the door, grabbed a slice of pizza on his way out, and Kareem's just met Dave, but he's on the same page as Allie. I'm sure if Kareem and Allie had the opportunity to sit down and talk, they would have had a lot of similarities. Kareem would have understood. And understood her pain quite a bit effortlessly. So cut now to Gaeta is at the audition for Rhythm and Flow. He goes in, they got the cameras set up, and they ask him to start, throwing out a rap, and he, kind of starts, and they stop him right away, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to have you freestyle, which not every rapper is good at freestyling. There's a lot of rappers that they write their stuff and then they perform their stuff. And freestyling tends to be a different type of art form within the hip-hop community. And it's very clear that Gaeta is one of those people that is not a freestyler. Dave? Yes, Dave is a freestyler. Dave is that kind of hip-hop artist. Gaeta is not. And when they throw out words for Gaeta to freestyle about, does not work. And then Gaeta finds out that those two guys running the interview are actually the Stone Twins, and he is pissed. He's pissed because they made him look bad. It's all fake. They did this whole elaborate thing. Gaeta's not one to be made fun of. Gaeta's not one to be pranked. And he is not happy. He punches one of them, storms out of the thing, just pissed as hell, which is super, justified, I would say. I wouldn't like that either, especially like your art form, like for somebody to use you as the punchline within your art form is just it would make me mad too. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals, You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. So now cut to Dave and Kareem. Kareem came over to Dave's place to finish this interview, and he asked Dave what he fears most. And Dave's biggest fear is not being a good person. He's deathly afraid of people thinking he's not a good person. And he goes into this whole thing about how Dave wants to, do good things, and that he feels that if he becomes, the more famous he becomes, the more that will allow him to be do bigger things. Like he'll be able to do even more good in the world the more famous he is. Like he's justifying his narcissism of wanting to be famous as a way to like help society, which Kareem laughed at him and said it was the most creative way he'd ever heard somebody describe a narcissist. And it's also the first time that Dave's been told that he's a narcissist. I mean, there's definitely the aspects that the arguments that he's had with Allie have pointed at that. But Kareem coming straight out to tell him that was a new revelation in some ways for Dave. To have his hero tell him that he's narcissistic. So Kareem excuses himself. He needs to use the restroom, which Dave is, mind blown still, like, okay. Then you have Gata, storming in, still pissed off at this fake audition that happened, thinking that Mike is the one that set it up. So he bursts in looking for Mike. You have Gata angry. Mike comes in. So you have Gata and Mike yelling at each other. Meanwhile, Mike's trying to calm Gata down because he knows that Kareem is in the back. Kareem is there trying to do this interview. So Mike's trying to protect that whole scenario, trying not to get the wrong thing. Meanwhile, Kareem's in the bathroom hearing all this commotion. He can't get out of the bathroom because, of course, is Chekhov's bathroom door. The bathroom door is stuck, as it's been this whole episode. It hasn't been fixed. So, of course, Gata is being blamed for not getting his guy over to fix it from Mike. Mike is getting blamed for setting up this fake audition prank for Gata, so everybody's angry at everybody. Mike goes to grab a knife from the kitchen, and it's like, oh no, what is Mike going to do with that? And of course, as all this chaos is happening, you have Allie coming in the door, sees Mike with the knife. You see Dave trying to break down the bathroom door because Kareem's on the other side. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar trying to kick the door open with his tiny toothpick legs, ends up breaking his leg. Dave unable to bash the door open. Gata goes, gets the auto blow, the blowjob robot, featured prominently in the episode Antsy, and uses that to bust the door open, to knock the handle off, opening the door, revealing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in pain on the ground with a compound fracture. You see Kareem's bones sticking out straight through his jeans. It's just the amount of chaos happening. It is very similar to the chaos that was happening in the jail in Korea when their intern gets busted for coming back to Korea after never serving his military service. That whole scene, very reminiscent of this scene where it's just massive chaos, just stressful. So, of course, cut to ambulance shows up. You have Dave and Allie talking. He forgot to sign the check that he brought, the actual normal-sized check, in addition to the giant check that ended up getting put in the trash can. And Dave changes the check from $1,000 to $5,000, which, it's good to see Dave being generous. Obviously, clearly, Allie sees it. Clearly, Dave is trying to buy her friendship, still trying to push the friendship thing. Allie being having a little bit more space between the events of what happened with him coming over the night before, helping her out while she was all drugged up, and then the whole thing. It was just a lot for her. And she needs to make sure she has her boundaries. And she's willing to open up and allowing them to have a friendship going forward, but it has to be on her terms, which is understandable. You have Gaeta seeing his phone blowing up from the whole twins, the Stone Twins audition. So his attitude flips on a dime where he's super stoked. He sees their thing blowing up, so he goes on Instagram Live and like, hey, everybody should go check out this thing where the Stone Twins, they got me. And easily going from being real to just being sucked into the fake world of internet celebrity. And then you have Kareem getting wheeled out, and as he's getting put into the ambulance, he tells Dave that you are not. It's all he says is you are not. And you kind of know what Kareem means by you are not. I mean, you could say, you can add a lot of different things. Like, you are not an authentic artist, right? Because Dave is very fake in a lot of ways, and you are not level-headed. You are not all of the things that you think you are. And he finds out that the article, there's not going to be any article. That Kareem is not even going to acknowledge Dave's existence in print form. Because of the events that had happened in this episode. And Dave getting a little bit of a wake-up call. Not only from, from Allie, but from one of his heroes, Kareem. And that's how the episode ends. Dave kind of getting his comeuppance in some ways. You have Gaeta kind of starting to blow up on his own. You have Mike clearly stepping out and trying to get other clients since Dave isn't really doing much. You're seeing people kind of leave the ship, right? They're forming backup plans because Dave doesn't seem like the most reliable person to hitch your ride to. So that is the end of episode 4 of season 2. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Next episode 5, is Bar Mitzvah. So I will be breaking down and spoiling that entire episode. And we'll see what happens. We'll see how much growth happens with Dave. Because so far this season has been a bummer, right? It's been a bummer to see Dave act the way he's been acting. As selfish as he's been acting and narcissistic as he's been, it's been kind of a bummer. It hasn't been the fun joy ride that season 1 was, despite the fact that there are funny moments, but it's been far more stressful, I would say, than not with the show. But anyway, season 2, episode 5, next week, Bar Mitzvah. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at InspiredDisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at InspiredDisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.